blood moon is a full lunar eclipse, and 4 of them in a row is called a tetrad. When they've occurred on the Jewish High Holy Days, it's coincided with major historical events, like the Six-Day War in 1967. 4 blood moons on the Jewish High Holy Days has happened only 3 times in the last 500 years. The next time it occurs is starting next spring on the Jewish Passover.
The recent discoveries released by NASA, the National Aeronautical Space Association, literally the best scientists in the world predicting the coming 4 blood moons. They are predicting that there will be 4 blood moons that began April 15th, 2014, that there will be a second October the 8th, 2014, that there will be a solar eclipse in the month of March, the 20th of 2015, a third blood moon in April the 4th, 2015, a fourth blood moon September the 28th, 2015. I want you to read my lips. These are NASA's predictions, not mine.
You know, as you're very well aware of all the prophecies, you know, about signs in the heavens and the sun turning to darkness and the moon to blood. And so as I was looking this, I went to NASA's website because they have 5,000 years of eclipses recorded. Because God created everything mathematically, they can do this.
Right.
Well, I noticed that there were 4 total blood moons or total lunar eclipses in a row in 2014 and 2015. They fell on Passover and the Feast of Tabernacles in 2014, and then again on Passover and Tabernacles in 2015. I was blown away to see these 4 blood moons falling on the feast days, and I wondered how often does that happen? And I noticed it didn't happen at all in the 1800s, the 1700s, the 1600s. And so I went to the 1900s, and lo and behold, twice there were 4 blood moons in a row. And guess what years they fell? This is what we talked about, 1967 and 68 when Israel captured Jerusalem. And then right after Israel became a nation in 1948, they happened in 1949 and 1950. And so I thought this is an awesome sign. I mean, in Genesis 1:14, God said he created the sun and the moon and the stars to send signs. Typically, you only have 1 total lunar eclipse every few years. But to have 4 together in 2 years tied to the biblical holidays, that's huge.
Quick and continuing reaction today after a nuclear deal was reached with Iran late last night. In exchange for rolling back its nuclear program, Iran gets an easing of many sanctions. But it's not a long-term deal.
Under the 6-month deal, Iran agreed to destroy its stockpile of weapons-grade uranium, restrict its production of nuclear fuel, and give inspectors daily access to select nuclear facilities. Speaking after the deal was announced, President Obama warned Iran that they must comply.
And if Iran does not fully meet its commitments during the 6-month phase, we will turn off the relief and ratchet up the pressure.
Skeptics, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, slammed the deal, calling it a historic mistake that would allow Iran to get closer to making a bomb. And now the hard part begins. The U.S. and its allies have about 6 months to monitor Iran's progress.
Israeli and Palestinian negotiators will seek to reach a peace agreement within 9 months.
Our objective will be to achieve a final status agreement over the course of the next 9 months.
The United States is seeking to broker an agreement on a 2-state solution in which Israel would exist peacefully alongside a new Palestinian state created in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, lands occupied by the Israelis since the 1967 war.
Secretary of State John Kerry is getting ready to return to the Middle East for peace talks with Israel and Palestinian officials. This video is from a trip he made there earlier this month, and we know the timing is important. Just last week, Israeli government expressed anger over learning the United States had been gathering intelligence on them through the NSA. Kerry is expected to leave on New Year's Day in what will be his 10th trip to that region since March, all part of a push to move the peace process.
This is the postcard from Jerusalem. It's not often you get to see the old city in the Golden Dome of the Rock blanketed in snow.
Residents in Jerusalem battled to return to normality on Sunday after a powerful winter storm lasting days covered the city in snow. Most of Israel, including the West Bank, has been affected by the storm. This is the most severe snowstorm in decades in Israel.
Applause rings through St. Peter's Square as Pope Francis prepares to deliver his first Christmas message as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. He decried the cost of war and called on atheists to unite with believers of all religions to work for peace.
So it's the end of the year, but are we heading for the end of the world as we know it? Economic turmoil, wage rage over living pay, spiraling national debt, high unemployment, with benefits for more than 1 million people expiring tomorrow. The current economic climate has, understandably, caused a lot of fear and some unrest. One financial expert says it may be time to brace for the worst and prepare for financial Armageddon.
If you have never heard of Bitcoin, you are probably not alone, but the online currency is gaining popularity around the world, and now in eastern Kentucky. WIMT's Brittany Nada looked into the cyber money to try and answer some questions about how it works.
City commissioners in Vico recently passed a measure to pay its police chief in Bitcoin. It may be a forward-thinking movement, but many of you probably do not understand how it works.
Bitcoin is a new currency traded against the dollar, yen, euro, and every other currency around the world.
Several bald eagles have died in northern and central Utah this month alone, all from similar symptoms of a mystery illness. Well, today we have learned of 2 more birds found this week on the verge of death. That brings the total nearly 24.
Statewide, 21 bald eagles have been found with the mysterious illness just this month. 16 have died. This one was found by hikers in Bountiful.
We've never had this many birds come in of one species coming in this quickly in this short span of time and having them all die.
The bald eagle is just what America stands for, and so to see one hurt, injured, that's not what you want to see.
Now, what was strange about this is that this man's speeches and directions for the whole world had to do with new times upon us as human beings, new directives for global peace, and the need to give up current citizenship for world citizenship. This man continually and constantly spoke of world order and the benefits of all men dwelling together in peace. Now, even though I was disturbed in the dream, I was also being pulled into this because it sounded very, very good. World peace sounds good until you see the cost. Let me tell you, there is no world peace. I constantly heard the word new order, world order, and new times.
Final thought from you, because you say openly in your essay that you're reserving judgment on all of this as we learn more over the next several weeks. But one of the things that you talk about in a broader perspective is global powers trying to rearrange themselves into a new global world order.
I think we have to watch it carefully to see whether, in fact, this is the opening of a new moment in international history.
So my freedoms and my patriotism were instantly being eroded from my understanding.
Our other big story, a clash between church and county, a place of worship being told to take down a sign with an American flag and a message to support the troops.
The church put up this sign to cover an old billboard that was run down. However, support the troops is becoming quite controversial here in Nevada County.
Why would you knock something that's got an American flag on it that says support our troops? I have no idea. I really don't.
Fourth grader Gracie Brown and her brother Luke put a lot of thought and effort into their Christmas cards.
It included Merry Christmas. And when you open it up, it says, "Thank you for your service," and the American flag.
52 students at Grace Academy in Prosper spent Friday morning making these cards.
I hope you have a blessed holiday.
They planned to hand deliver to bedridden veterans at the VA hospital in Dallas this morning. When Gracie and Luke's mom found out they wouldn't be able to, she was outraged.
This wasn't the country that I grew up in, that you couldn't say Merry Christmas. So we found out not only could you not say Merry Christmas, you couldn't say God bless you in a card, and you couldn't reference any Scripture.
People were buying right into this plan that this man was releasing through the airwaves at staggering rates. No resistance. No one was fighting it. No one was saying anything publicly. I can't tell you if the airwaves were controlled to the point where you couldn't come on and say certain things. You can't just get on the 3 major networks and say what you want.
Superstar patriarch of Duck Dynasty, Phil Robertson, put on indefinite hiatus now by A&E for comments that he made to GQ magazine about homosexuality.
Well, Martha, after some heavy lobbying by gay community, A&E suspended Robertson for his personal comments made to GQ magazine by Barbara Walters, along with the Klan, described his family as Bible thumpers who just happened to end up on TV. In the article, he calls homosexuality a sin, and I'm quoting, "Everything is blurred on what's right and what's wrong. Start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and those men. Don't be deceived. Neither the adulterers, the idolaters, the male prostitutes, the homosexual offenders, the greedy, the drunkards, the slanderers, the swindlers, they will not inherit the kingdom of God."
On the top of them, I began to see cameras, little white, oval-looking, hot dog kind of looking cameras. And in the dream, it was revealed to me that these cameras knew the whereabouts of everybody's vehicles.
The FBI is now revealing its next generation, if you will, effort to weed out the bad guys. As you mentioned, $1 billion. They've put it to the test so far in several states since February. The facial recognition system compiles mugshots, DNA information, iris scans, and voice recognition, which matches surveillance images with photos of known criminals. It can also track suspects in surveillance footage by honing in on their faces in a crowd. Several public advocates are also wary of the project, fearing it will eventually extend beyond criminals to include images of the innocent. It remains unclear, though, if images of the general public will also be included when it is nationally implemented by the year 2014.
Very unusual things began to happen with law. I began to see local municipalities, and no longer were police departments the enforcers of the law of municipalities, but military police driving very unusual looking vehicles that I now know to be called Humvees. These vehicles that I saw were black.
New crime fighting tool is so big, some might call it a tank.
Hey, I think they are. Now, it's really called an MRAP. I checked on that. And tonight, these massive military vehicles are in the hands of 4 mid-state police agencies.
A handful of police departments are now getting them free of charge to protect their officers. Hendersonville SWAT team already has 2 Humvees. The problem is they're not armored. The MRAP gives them that much-needed protection.
We plan to paint it black, just the same as our other tactical vehicles, and put police markings on it, and that's probably all we're going to do.
I see how God's hand guided me. When I began preaching many years ago, it was not with any thoughts that I'd be preaching to large audiences.
Come to the cross! His gospel is for everyone!
God has done this.
Christ is alive! In modern America today, there is a vacuum of the soul.
Our country's in great need of a spiritual awakening. Well, there have been times that I've wept as I've gone from city to city and I've seen how far people have wandered from God. Of all the things that I've seen and heard, there's only one message that can change people's lives and hearts.
There is a way if you come by the way of the cross.
I know that there are many people that dispute that. People don't want to hear that they're sinners. To many people, it's an offense. The cross is offensive because it directly confronts the evils which dominate so much of this world.
These 4 blood moons happen on a high holiday 4 times in a row with a solar eclipse in the middle is beyond the null hypothesis of probability. This is something that the Bible, using the sun, the moon, and the stars as a communication system to humanity, says something is about to change and world history is going to change forever.